Halo, działa? Telefon działa? Jest sygnał?
No,
Proszę pani, jest sygnał? Ma pani sygnał?
no,
Telefon działa? Jak to pani zrobiła, że nie działał? Ale ja muszę dzwonić do żony! Czekaj!
It's like a anti-neo-noir with the, pieces of dream-like phantasmagory. So it's about a British professor of psychiatry who comes to Warsaw on the 12th December 1981 for a lecture. And the next morning she wakes up into another world, which is, the martial law was installed in Poland. And she's trying desperately to get back home. And she has all kind of different adventures. And somebody described the film in a way that kind of really, I really like to say that it's Lesley Manville goes Jason Bourne, which I thought was really cool. We got inspired for the film by a novel by Olga Tokarczuk, a Nobel Prize laureate, and it's a very short novel, so it was more an inspiration than an adaptation, really. And the novel kind of touched a very personal note with me, because it described exactly the martial law and this time in Polish history from an outsider's point of view, from a very kind of like subjective, very emotional and very Kafkaesque side. And I was 9 years old when the martial law was installed, and I really lived it, very, very emotionally, as a kid would. And then I immigrated to the West with my mother. And when we were in France, for many years afterwards, I would dream of this like concrete labyrinth of buildings of the satellite town in Warsaw, of these gray, lights that kind of like, aspire light instead of giving it back, and of the cold and of all these events. And so when I read the novel, it just sounded like, like Olga Tokarczuk was in my head, like she's describing my memories of this time. And so I wanted to make a film which is not a depiction of what happened really exactly, of the historical reality of it, but more of a emotional souvenir, emotional memory of that time. I guess, it was the hardest thing. It was to try to explain what I had in my head to my collaborators, Tomasz Naumiuk, and Ola Kieszkowska, so they could, recreate this, what I had in my head. We also got inspired by Nidental's pictures. He was a photographer who took a lot of pictures during this exact time in Poland. And so there's a lot of homages to his work and to his pictures, to his photographs. But it was more of a feeling. It was more of a, when you're a kid, you remember everything bigger, more exacerbated. The buildings are a bit taller and everything is a bit more grayer or more overwhelming. And there's also this kind of like breathless escape. The main character witnesses something, a murder by the secret police, and she's trying to escape. So this kind of breathless escape through this cold, dark and grey city also gave me this kind of pace, the rhythm of the film. So I think it was more about trying to describe what I had in my head. The most important thing for me was to try, and I think this is, something not so easier said than done, but try to make the film as subjective as possible. So we are very close to our main protagonist, but not only close to her face and to her emotions, but we're also trying to see the world through her eyes. It means we are trying not to, if she doesn't understand something, we're not trying to explain it too much. We're not trying to over-explain it. We don't want the audience to have too much more knowledge than the main protagonist does. So this subjectivity, you know, this subjectivity in the camera, but also in the storytelling, the fact that Lesley Manville is in almost every scene, and she kind of like drives the film throughout, is what was my main goal, you know. This and this kind of exactly breathless pace of escape. And then the film changes at one point. The film shifts when, well, I don't want to say too much, but there's a moment in the film when she takes control, when from a passive protagonist she becomes an active protagonist, because she clicks and she starts to understand the world that she experiences, and she starts to take control of her own life, of her own destiny. This is when she also finds, you know, empathy for others. So it's all these kind of themes of empathy, which I think it's so important right now in our world, when I think we lack empathy the most of all, you know, and how to escape, how to break this totalitarian regime that kind of like tries to crush her. We tried to do the film, it was 12 years ago, and the world was a different world than it is now. And unfortunately, fortunately for us, I guess, and unfortunately for the world, the world is catching up. It means the totalitarian shadow is kind of looming over the world, over Europe and over the States and over, you know, different countries. And it becomes, so the movie started for us to be something like, not maybe like a warning, but like an experience of what it feels like to be under a totalitarian regime. I think people don't remember it. The young people never experience a world like this, and the older people forget. You know, we forget how it feels like, not how the political situation was, not the rulers or travel documents, but how it feels like to live under a totalitarian rule. And I think it's a horrible way to live, and I think it's something that is happening in more and more countries. And also, I think the relevant part of it was for me that, you know, the world changes from one day to another. You know, we go on a holiday, the war starts. You know, there's a coup. The world becomes smaller and smaller. So that was the two important thing. And for me, what we lack exactly in the world is this empathy for the experience of the other. Something that is not even so far away as, you know, 300 kilometers is already something that doesn't touch us at all. And for me, the character of Professor Andrews goes through that change. You know, she arrives not caring, being a very egocentric character, very selfish, closed in her, you know, nice cocoon of her own, you know, making, and she slowly, very slowly opens up to the plight of others, of the people that are foreign to her, and she starts to feel for them and empathize with them, which I think is really what, if we are ever to save our world, I think empathy is what we have to use.